What's up, everybody? So this is my review of Fight or Flight, directed by James Madigan, starring Josh Hartnett. The plot of this movie is very reminiscent of Bullet Train, where Josh Hartnett plays a mercenary who is tasked to find this particular person on the plane and keep that person from being killed. So if you've seen Bullet Train, if you've enjoyed Bullet Train, the tone is pretty much the same, just not as stylistic as Bullet Train is, but kind of the same tone. It's not taking itself too seriously. It actually reminded me a lot of 90s action movies, which I'm all for it. If there could be like an action movie renaissance with actors the caliber of Josh Hartnett, I'd be totally down for that. I actually first heard about this movie maybe like 2 weeks ago or so. I saw a podcast with Robert Rodriguez, the famous filmmaker. And apparently he was like giving a talk on the creative process, and it really resonated with this one person in the crowd. I'm not sure if it was the director or one of the writers. And he said, the guy said to Robert Rodriguez, like, look, I was very inspired by your talk that you gave last time I came to listen to you, and I was stuck. But I just turned off the phone, turned off all distractions. I had started this movie, and then I just finished the entire script in 3 days. And this script ended up being Fight or Flight. And that was really cool because like the thing that Robert Rodriguez was talking about in the podcast was, if you're creating anything, whether it's a movie script, whether it's a painting, whether it's a business, even when you feel stuck, just keep going. And then eventually something will click, and then you'll kind of unstuck yourself, But the whole idea is to like just finish it, and then go back to it and tweak it as you go along. And it's I think that's a really great way of looking at the creative process. I kind of see that in this because it's not taking itself too seriously. There are some moments that you can tell there wasn't so much of a huge budget. Whether it's like CGI blood that's not of the best quality, whether it's action sequences or fight sequences that kind of look like they're slow, like almost like the director said, okay, don't go too fast, I'll speed it up later, and then it wasn't completely sped up. Having said that, I really appreciated Josh Hartnett doing his own stunts. It's not Tom Cruise level, of course, but what is anyways, but when you're doing an action sequence or a fight sequence and you don't want to go the Taken route, you actually want to like come across as believable, maybe not necessarily realistic, then it's got to be the guy himself doing it, when you see his face as he's throwing the punches or taking the punches, and so that was really refreshing to see, and I really appreciate this kind of comeback of Josh Hartnett. I remember the first time I ever saw him was in Pearl Harbor, and I saw him in the trailer, and I was like, that dude's gonna be a star. And I think he might have bought into it for like half a second. Pearl Harbor comes out, it's not exactly the huge hit that I thought it was going to be. It wasn't exactly the kind of movie I thought it was going to be, but I enjoyed it enough. But then he goes on and is like, I think it's, 40 days and 40 days and nights, where he gives up sex during Lent. And it's really funny, it's really charming, but soon after that, he just kind of dropped off. And then now with Trap, that came out recently with M. Night Shyamalan, it's almost as like, all right, I'm going to do my own thing. I'm not, he could have very easily gone the route of being the Hollywood leading man and doing the romantic comedies and doing the big tentpole action movies, and having everything rest on his shoulders. But he decided, look, I don't want that life. He probably saw it. My theory is that he probably saw it with Ben Affleck during that time and decided, yeah, I'm not going that route. And so now he's kind of just doing his own thing, and from an outsider's perspective, when you're not just enjoying the movie, that's kind of also refreshing. It's like, I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to do it my way. And, hopefully I, create good work. And with trap, it might have, I have my issues with trap, but it's still good. It's still something that is unique. Fight or flight, it's not exactly unique because, like I said, it is kind of a bit of a derivative of Bullet Train, but it's still a whole lot of fun. Typical popcorn movie. And if you just want to go to the movie theaters and have a good time and forget about all your worries in life, this is definitely the one to do it. Anyways, what about you guys? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Smash that like button, give me a follow, and I'll see you guys next time.